Yep.
Let me turn this, get you in frame here.
We are in frame.
Are you warm enough over there, Mikey?
I am warm enough.
Yeah, it was a little cool this morning, so I had the main heater on here in the studio, so I wanted to make sure you were warm enough.
I am warm enough.
All right. Because I'm worried about little Mikey getting cold.
Oh, you know, I'm precious.
With that outfit on, you look like you're dressed up like one of the Ghostbusters because of the brown fatigues and the black straps. It looks like you're on the Ghostbusters.
Oh, I thought the name of that movie was Ghostbusters. That's a different one.
That's a totally different movie. One of those somewhere. All right, here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stein is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology, we're going to talk about the cannon bone, also the diagram of the growth plate closure time, and also a case study of baby Alice and her crooked legs. All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. And over to my far right side is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. You were having some problems this morning? You were running late this morning? What happened?
Well, the pups decided to go on a rampage, and they go deaf when they're doing that, so they couldn't hear.
So you got two dogs that were just running loose on the property?
Well, they were running loose on everybody's property because they were having a blast, and they couldn't hear.
How was your week going this week? You said the snowbirds are going back up. Are they taking the horses with them?
There's horses heading back north, and some of them packed up and gone already. You know, I get in the eventing world, I get a good number of extra winter horses in my schedule, and so like coming into early spring and with everything picking up and those, I'm running double time. But they're headed home, and I've not been back to see how they did. They had a couple of big events they were going to, and then packing up and going back north.
You said you were on a 7-day rotation as far as like doing horses. So you were working 7 days a week for how many months have you been?
Well, it hasn't been for months, but once you get into spring here and they're still down and they're preparing for, you got a couple of 4-stars in this part of the country. You got the Carolina, you got, after that you got the Fork, and then usually if anybody's hanging on long enough to go to the Rolex or / Land Rover, if I don't have anybody that's heading there this year, some of them will be on till about that point, and then they'll head north. So
you're good now. You can relax a little bit.
You
can sleep in at least till 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, no, because I was sent x-ray. It's time to start getting x-rays from veterinarians on stuff they're asking me to work on.
Okay, so you're basically not playing catch up, but you're just trying to...
You're just swapping gears and going in another direction.
Yeah. Well, speaking of switching gears and going different directions, as you know, my wife was out of town. Now she's back. But the whole entire time where I said, I had to do all the chores and stuff, and that was the first day of my wife being gone. After the show, went downstairs, and you saw my dad downstairs. And when you left, my dad, who's 76, he'll be 77 next month, says, and he's got bad knees. He's got everything bad with him. He's like, do you need help with the horses? And I kind of sat there and thought, and I go, well, I don't want to say no, because he's always asking me, can he help do something?
Right.
And I said, yeah, Dad. I said, you want to come down and see what actually happens, what goes on down there? He's like, yeah, I'd love to. So essentially what I did was I switched positions. I took what my wife does, I took her role, and then he did my role. And when we were talking about the water boy and everything.
And he did a better job than you did.
Well, he let's put it this way. He can't walk.
Right.
He has to ride on the side-by-side everywhere he goes. To go down to get the mail, he's got to ride the side-by-side down there. To go check the garden behind the house, gets on the side-by-side, drives it around there. He just can't walk any great long distance. So
right.
The thing was, he went down, yes, he filled up the water buckets. We have a 6-stall barn, so it's not a whole lot of walking in there, concrete floors. He filled up all the water buckets. He grabbed the hay. I said, okay, 2 flecks of hay in this one fleck of hay in this. He did all right. All that stuff in the barn was great. But when we turned the horses out, now we start running into a little bit of problems, because now my dad, who's in a side-by-side is driving around like a mad person while I'm trying to move horses. And he's, driving right up to me next to with the horse.
You shouldn't have made him mad.
I didn't make him mad. He was making the horse mad. Because he's literally driving up like if I'm walking a dog or something. And he'd pull up and he's like, okay, what do I need to do next? I'm like, Dad, first of all, you can't come at me full speed in this bright red open top side-by-side with the engine running and slam on the brakes next to these horses. These horses will pull me, kick you, and run that direction, and then we're both in big trouble.
And you're going to have, when your wife gets home, you got some explaining to do.
I've got more than explaining to do. So it was that learning curve because my dad never really, he's been around horses. He's been around cattle. He grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He's familiar with country life, but he's not familiar with care of country life. And so I had to teach him, Dad, don't do this around the horse or don't do that. He goes, well, I can go in the stalls and water fill the buckets up. I said, Dad, you can't be in the stalls with the horse. This horse does not know that he weighs or she weighs 1,500 pounds. The horse looks at you like you're one of them. If they take one side step this way, one side step that way, they're going to bump you, Dad, push you into the wall. You're going to bounce off the wall. You're going to fall on the floor. And then now, talking about explaining to do, I'm going to have explaining to do. So I had to teach my dad the basics as far as don't drive around the side-by-side around the horses erratically. Now I've done it before, but I take my time. I keep my distance away from my wife. I do all that stuff because it's that knowledge that I've been instilled with through her.
Right.
So that was just something. It was a learning curve for my dad. And then, you tell him once, second day, you got to kind of remind him. And then third and fourth and fifth day, he was fine. He understood that when a horse is moving, technically he stops or doesn't come in my direction with the side-by-side. So there you go.
Yep.
So that's what he did. So he helped me out. He filled the water buckets, which is time consuming. It's like watching paint dry. When you fill those buckets up, you're just sitting there going, So he did good.
You're good at that.
And for his reward, I took him out to breakfast on Friday morning before my wife got home. I took him out to breakfast. Nice grits and eggs and sausage and
all the good stuff.
All the good sticky stuff he shouldn't have.
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys, stick around. We got a big show to get into and lots of visuals here in the studios. Make sure you go over to YouTube. Mike's got a whole bunch of different legs here, and looks like he's got little baby horseshoes over there as well. And we're going to look at those and make sure you follow us over on YouTube as well. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back.
Fluffy.
And here,
I'm doing that to you.
Stick that underneath it.
God, that makes a difference.
A little bit of difference. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He was the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. And if you have a question for Mike Stein, the way you get those questions in is to go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Fill out that little form. If we read your question on the air, we'll send you out some magnets, some stickers, some free stuff here from the Equine Dynamics show. Put a return address on there, and we'll get it out to you lickety-split as well. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. Now, we are going to talk terminology. This week, the word is cannon bone. Cannon bone. The horse has a cannon bone on all four legs, but the front leg is a proximal end of the cannon bone. These words are...
She's the big words.
She
Just
used
say
the
big word and keep going.
A big word. And the lower row of the knee. The hind leg and the end of the cannon bone. I'm going to...
Proximal would be towards the body. Distal would be away from the body.
All right, so there you go. So we're going to talk about cannon bone. So, Mike, take it away. Tell us what you know about a cannon bone.
A cannon bone. Now, we got some right here.
Oh, well, let me switch cameras so we can...
Switch cameras.
There we go.
Okay, this is
Let me light you up a little bit, too. There you go.
All right, I feel good now. I'm in the lights. This is a hind leg of a young horse, very young horse. But this is the hock joint, and this would be the top end of the cannon bone, bottom end of the cannon bone, in the fetlock joint. If this was a front leg, you stole my super glue.
Too much stuff on the scene there.
This would be between the knee and your fetlock.
Okay. So that's the cannon bone.
Yes.
Now, what is the purpose other than keeping the horse straight up and down? What's the most important thing that the cannon bone does?
It holds the horse up. Keeps it from falling over.
Now, what
if
are
they didn't have a cannon bone, they look like a dachshund.
little short legs running around?
Yeah.
What are the most common injuries, or what are the most things that we're looking for to keep a nice, healthy cannon bone?
Well, on either side of the cannon bone, we can't see them here. We have splint bones on either side from when they had 3 toes, and there are some ligaments between the cannon bone and the splint bones.
Now, hold on. You can't just run right over that.
Okay, let's go somewhere else.
Horses had 3 toes?
They had 3 toes. They had 5 toes before that.
Did they really? So I guess over the, evolution,
yes.
They're down to 2 toes? Or what are they
4
down?
toes, 1 on each corner, 1 on each leg.
So so it's one.
Basically standing on 1 toe.
Really? I had no idea.
How many fingernails do you see on a horse, or toenails?
1
on each leg, right?
1.
Well, there's your toe.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And actually, when you look at the anatomy, if you do an anatomy test, basically it's set up the same way as we are.
Huh.
The wrist, what is formed as the horse's knee is formed more like the human wrist. The hock joint is formed more like the human ankle.
So the cannon bone at one time had, what were you saying about when it had 3 legs? Or 3 feet?
Well, when they had 3 toes, then there was a splint bone left over, which is a partial, was an extra cannon bone for each toe, right?
Right.
Because it's kind of like the bones in your hand.
Right.
So the ligaments, you can get a strain in there and they'll puff up on, and get kind of sore for a while, but then they'll calcify in, and over time, those ligaments calcify in and it becomes solid, and that forms a trough for your tendons and ligaments to run down the back of it. The cannon bone can be fractured, and that is not a good deal, believe me.
Now, could the extra bone or the leftover remains of a bone cause problems if not taken care of? For example, some of us.
No, they serve a purpose.
Okay. What you might have tell me again what the.
I was going to say unlike you, but we won't go there.
It'd be nice.
Right
to me
now,
today.
you're serving a purpose.
Right.
We'll wait. But no, the tendon, it kind of forms a trough down the back of the bone that the tendons ride through. Your suspensory ligament is in the bottom, then your deep flexor and superficial flexor run down a trough in the middle of the back of the leg. So it does help protect. They do help protect the tendons.
So it's an advantage to have that extra remnants left over.
It did form a good purpose, yes. So that's something that along the cannon bone you can see that type of injury. You can have, of course, on the joint itself on either end, you can have some injuries at those points also.
So if I was to X-ray one of our horses, whether it be Diego or Dominique or Cayenne, I'm not going to X-ray her because she's a little pistol, and you notice that we don't have any remnants, like it's evolution out of this horse that I have right now. Should I be worried about that, or?
I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's always.
I think your splint bones are always going to be there. They can fracture the tip of a splint bone, and sometimes those are removed, and that's not any huge deal really, other than it is pretty uncomfortable for a while.
So when you hear about a horse breaking its leg, is it the cannon bone that you worry about breaking, or is it something else, somewhere else?
It could be anywhere in the leg.
Okay.
It could be a cannon bone. It could be pastern bones. It could be,
Now, if a horse broke a cannon bone, could it technically recover from that, or is that a career-ending break?
If it is completely a complete fracture, I think that's a horse-ending break, most likely.
So no casts, no splints, no bolts, no pins, no nothing. That's it.
That's for the most of the time. That is it. There are some horses out there that people have decided to go for the amputees and all that sort of deal, but that's a little bit of a different deal, and it is so much to take on, both financially and maintenance of the horse, that I don't think most people would even think about going that route.
Now, with the cannon bone, is there any kind of exercise or something that you know of or might have heard of to strengthen the muscles around that bone?
There's not really any muscles around.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the picture here, the one that you brought in here. It looks
muscles that drive the horse are above the knee or above the hock.
Right, and I'm looking at this, and it's thin, so I didn't know if there was something I was missing or the tendons.
Well, as the bones are stressed, they do calcify in stronger.
So
that's about mileage of the horse. Like people that with what is the deal when your bones start getting soft.
Oh, osteoporosis.
Yeah, something like that. let's pretend like we can say it. But basically, as the bone is stressed, it calcifies in stronger.
Osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis.
I think that's what it is.
What we're trying to do is go the opposite way of that.
Okay. So it'd be osteoporosis. It could be.
Just say it backwards. Just say it backwards.
PCOS.
There you go. You got it.
I think I created a new term.
You did. You can put that in the new something.
The Webster's Dictionary or whatever.
There you go.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we talked last week about the growth rate of a baby horse, and we have diagrams and stuff that actually explains that. And then a great time to stay on that YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to us over there as well. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back.
We just make up words, make up our own dictionary.
We can have a whole show. We can write a book, Mike.
That's right.
We can write a book on all the terms that we've made up.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to make it where the rest of the world can understand some stuff.
Terms heard on Equine Dynamics.
Right. Right. And we can have special meanings for words, kind of like, aren't you precious? What that really means.
Yeah.
There's the diagram.
I got it.
It went away. Where'd you go?
Oh, back here.
There it is.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He was the 2017 American Eventing Championship farrier. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. We got a whole bunch of videos this week on the show, so make sure you go over to YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe over there as well. And you can see all the half of horse's legs that Mike has sitting on. Now, the frozen dry. Frozen dried.
Kind of like your morning coffee.
I know. We were talking about we need to come up our own little dictionary of terms that we make up here on the Equine Dynamics podcast to help the simple people out there like myself understand exactly what we're talking about. And I think
well, we're just going to make up some of our own personal meanings for it, so there you go.
Hopefully it'll
then we'll have to buy our dictionary, right?
Right, and you can find those on Amazon.
Yeah
We'll put a book on tape, and excuse me. So now we're going to talk about the growth plate closure time. Now, we were talking about the time that it actually takes before the bones start joining together. So refresh our memory as far as what we're talking about when we talk about joint plates, growth plate closure time.
Can we flip this camera on?
Yeah. There we go. And there we go. Right here.
Okay.
Give me those.
Okay. On growth plate closure time, if you can see these two legs, this one still has the fuzz on the bottom.
The feathers.
The feathers on the bottom of the feet. That's from when horses used to fly.
Like Pegasus.
Like, exactly. But if you can see these, we'll put these joints next to each other, the two fetlock joints. If you can see the growth plate area in the joint on this young leg versus the more mature leg.
Mm-hmm.
As it ages, this area will get smaller and smaller and smaller and become like this. All this whole area is soft and malleable. How do you say it? Malleable?
Yeah.
Movable.
Pliable.
And that's one reason when we're looking at the point of, what we can do with which joint, because each joint up the leg closes at different times. You've got, like 3 months, and then, on up the leg, depending on where you are, which growth plate closes. And in your fetlock, you got, 6 months and around in here, and then the top plate will close about 9 months. And then, like your knee, about 2.5 years, and the hock about 18 months, give or take. It's going to vary with breed, vary with size of the horse, everything else. But when you're looking at crooked legs and working with that, that dictates, okay, if a horse is crooked in the fetlock, we've got to wait for, as long as everything is lined up, which in the, in the coffin joint, we got to wait for that closes and the short pastern before we start working on, can we move something in the fetlock itself, as long as everything lower is aligned right, and vice versa. They're, your high-low feet, your angular limb deformities, pigeon-toed horses, stuff like that, you got to look at this coffin joint. And if that's closing at 3 months, you've got to be before that 3-month window to really be effective at doing anything with it. So that's where we keep talking about the time, doing things in the correct time. With these young horses, we need to look at them when they're young. Now, if they come out of the womb and they're crooked, well, we all are. And, give them a few weeks, let them see what they'll do, and then start deciding from there. And you need to be working directly with a vet. You need to be taking x-rays of joints, and you need to understand exactly what your spacing looks like in there before you say, I'm going to manipulate, shift anything. And, you've got ligaments that are tight on one side, need to be stretched, that are overstretched on the other side that you need to work with, putting a little slack in the overstretched one and putting a little bit of tension a little bit of the time on the one that is contracted. And then you can work with moving these joints around while they're at the right age. If you wait too long, you're done. You come up with a 3 or 4 year old, can you fix this pigeon-toed horse? I'll get him as comfortable as I can, try to take as much stress off as I can. But, that joint has set, and, it's remodeling to a point the horse's whole life. But am I going to come in there and make any drastic changes on that? No. If I do, I'm going to make your horse where it can't walk.
So my question is, and I think I asked this last week too, is, let's say I've got a pasture horse out there. That's all it does. It just eats grass and it's a lawn ornament.
Right.
It gets knocked up and has a baby. Now, I'm not going to do anything with
technical terminology.
I'm not going to do anything with this baby. So should I be worried as just a lawn ornament owner to make sure that the horse's legs are fine like that? Because like I said, when Cayenne was born, we didn't do any of that stuff. We didn't, because we knew that she was just going to be a pasture buddy. And so I guess my question is, in a long rounded way, is when you have a baby horse, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't happen on accident. It's purposely made. It's scheduled. Yeah. A lot of times for horses, because the nature
it does happen on accident. But yes,
it does. But when it does happen on accident or unexpected, do you need to decide what that horse's job's going to be? For example, if I was going to have Cayenne be a circus horse, or something where kids could ride her, or something as simple as that, I should have done something then with her, or
well, you probably should have sold her, but I didn't say that. No, really, everything is straight enough for who she is. If I've got something more extreme, then we need to do something.
I guess my main question is, I know I kind of threw a bunch at you.
If I'm going to produce a couple $100,000, $1 million racehorse, we're going to be looking really hard.
Yes, I guess that's my question.
If you got a pasture ornament that is born to be a pasture ornament, and you got a slight deviation, can they function and be sound enough their whole lives with that? Probably so. It depends on the kind of stress the horse is under, and what is your objective long term. Now, here's the other end of that. With these high-low horses, with pigeon-toed horses and all that, longevity of use. How sound are they going to be later in life? How much of the life is you're going to be chasing problems? There's a number of these high-low horses, club-footed horses that are having problems with a lot of their life. Club-footed horse, if they get into laminitis, that club-footed horse is already compromised. Okay. If we could have done something over a few month period when that horse was young, you got a couple months that you were dealing with something where we have changed the rest of that horse's life. If we did not, and it's something that causes a mechanical problem for the rest of that horse's life, long term, and people up front are like, oh my God, I don't want to spend the money on the baby. But then you've got a horse standing out there that you always have to do something therapeutic on for the next 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is. How much money did you save, and how much did you save that horse from being in misery? So weigh that out and see where it lands.
So Mike, a little background story. You might not know this or not, and I know our audience doesn't know this. The way we acquired Dominique, her sire her dad basically was Sir Gregory, which was the staple front of the Brazilian dressage network. That was her dad.
Right.
Dominique was born, and then the person actually paid to have Dominique born. When during the process,
paid to have Dominique born. Okay, got
right. You. During the process of the pregnancy and Dominique being born, her and her husband weren't on good terms, so they filed for divorce. And they were, when there's money involved, a lot of money, 8-figure type money stuff being involved, it just draws out. So it took almost 2 years for them to finalize the divorce. In that time, I'm sure Dominique, as a baby, probably wasn't looked at like you should look at a horse that's going to go and enter the dressage world, or with that bloodline already in her.
Right.
So with that being said, does that explain a lot of the small issues that she has now? Or is this something that she developed later on in life because of just genetics of the horse?
It might, at a guess. We were chasing low palmar angles on the front end of her, and that's why have done what we've done with the shoeing, but after a while that becomes a problem. And then the question is the distal check ligaments. Was she maintained when she was young? Were those, were the toes let go long? Was she trimmed regular? And were those check ligaments stretched out when she was young? We can't really know that. But if that's the case, that would explain why she wants to migrate into that low palmar angle thing constantly on its own. Now, there's so many other things that play into that, from shoulder set to the saddle to how she was ridden to everything else that plays into it.
Right.
Can we pin it down to that one thing? No, we can't. Too many variables.
All right. I didn't know if A led to B, which is what you're now seeing now.
There is, but there's a whole lot of other letters and numbers and stuff tied in there.
All right, guys. When we come back, we're going to talk about a case study of baby Alice, and we have also some awesome pictures to show you as well. So make sure you stay on that YouTube channel as well. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back. All right, you want these back now?
Yes. I need something to cling around with.
Actually, I'll hand them to you because I'm going to put them up on the camera. You ready?
Yes.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He is a licensed thoroughbred farrier, now through the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. And if you'd like Mike Stein to come out and perform a clinic at your locations and bring all these exciting visuals and stuff, and he also has a full-size horse called Dolly, which is a skeleton, and it shows the whole structure of all the different things, the bone structures, the connection. Dolly
feels big today.
Yeah, I'm sure she does.
Dolly's only that tall because she's on an 18-inch table. She's not full-size horse size.
But she's close to it.
She's probably a medium to large, probably medium pony.
Mike, I'm trying to make you sound better.
Okay, let's go with that then.
She's the size of an elephant.
She thinks she's that big.
She can come out to your location and bring Mike Stein with her, and he can perform a clinic at your event or your location at any time. Just fill out the form over at equinedynamics.com under clinics, and Mike will schedule you and get you all set up with Dolly as well. And over to my far inside is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Now, here in my hand, we're going to talk about a case study by a horse named Baby Alice. And these little cute little horseshoes, they're flat. They're a little flat. Tell me what I'm holding here in my hand.
That was probably about a 4-foot stick of 1 by 1/4 aluminum.
Uh-huh.
And I cut up a bunch of them, cut the whole stick into little pieces and turned them because I was working on a crooked-legged baby. And at the time, the best glues we were dealing with were acrylics.
Here, I'm going to hand these to you so you can explain what's going on. Now, do I need to pull up the pictures of the baby horse?
Sure.
All right. Let me go here.
Anyway, when I made these, there were not that many glue-on applications for babies made. So I made some.
Okay.
And that's what that's about. And I'm not going to say they will never be used, but they've been hanging in my rig for that special occasion for a long time. But basically, I would place the foot and then draw out what I want, finish shaping it, take it to the bandsaw, cut out what I want. If I want an extension on one side, leave an extension. You would acrylic that to the foot because the acrylics stick to the aluminum like nobody's business. Now, on babies this age, you don't want anything to stay on. Really, I'm good with something coming off in a couple of weeks. And there's other ways to do it now. For the most part, at this point, I would use, this is from Castle, and it's the Castle Fat Set. They're fast set, and it was, there's a number of companies that have a product along those lines out, and at this point, I would take a piece of cardboard and a marking pen, and I would mark it out on the horse's foot real quick. You made a noise.
I did make a noise. Sorry.
And then cut it out with a pair of shears, and then put a thin layer of the Castle Fast Set on there, or whichever company you buy from, because I've kind of gone to some of the Castle product, but Equine was the long time standard. Now there's a bunch of different companies that have a similar product out. And they all go in the same gun, and depending on what your supply shop is carrying or which one you might buy. But you can build basically something to do that on a piece of cardboard, and clean up the foot, hit it with some sandpaper, and put a little more of the glue on there and stick it to the foot where you want it, and let the baby walk on it, and hopefully it falls off in a few weeks. And, if you've got a crooked-legged baby, I would start off with trimming and see what we can do, and then look at doing something like the Castle product. These aluminum shoes, I don't know. I may not ever glue them, but I've got them. But part of the problem with this is they're very rigid, and babies' feet are changing real fast. So that's why falling off and coming loose in a couple of weeks is good with me on a young baby.
Right.
But we can take a look at this young one that we worked on.
So this looks like the donkey from Shrek.
I wouldn't tell the owner that.
No, just because it's from the breast down. So
Right.
All right. So what are we looking at here?
Well, if you look at the alignment of the lower leg, I don't remember the exact age of the time of the baby, but it's probably more in the on side of the left foot, which would be the other side. But look at that alignment, and she's turned out pretty hard from the shoulder all the way down.
Yeah, she's like at a 45-degree angle off
Right.
of the front. Yeah.
Right. And I think it worked out pretty decent. I was called in and asked to work on it. There we are.
Oh, look how cute she is.
At a certain point. Some of these are stuff from different points in life. This one is beside Mama. She was still beside Mama when we worked on her.
This is probably a younger picture because she looks like she has her baby fur.
Right.
And then this picture right here is where she's actually starting to take on her color.
Right.
See what I learned?
Yes, you did learn something. You did learn something.
Because this is, to help them hide babies. They have to have that camouflage.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. So here she is. This is baby Alice, as cute as a button. So these are her feet in an early stage. And then there she is smiling for the camera.
Exactly. Got a big smile going.
All right. So what are we looking at here?
Well, this is baby Alice, just another angle, hanging out with Mom. And look at which way those feet are pointed.
Yeah. I mean, they are literally like 35 degree in one direction and 45 degrees in another
And
direction.
you got to understand, she was bred to have a purpose, have a job, work for a living, and all this sort of deal. Mm-hmm. And left alone, that is going to affect her long-term soundness. It is going to definitely affect her movement patterns. And what is she going to be able to do for the rest of her life?
So what was her job before we get into this picture here?
What is her job?
Yes.
At that age?
Well, no, what is her job going to be?
At that age, she doesn't have a job yet. Her job to be is, this was a mare. Her mama was a mare, and they were into the shooting, and they've been into some barrel horses.
Okay. So this family had baby Alice with the intention of turning it into a barrel horse.
A barrel horse or a shooting horse, meaning they go kill balloons off the back of a horse. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
You know, that's what they were really, that was their big thing. And they had done very well at it, believe me.
So what are we looking at here? It looks like baby Alice has got...
Baby Alice has some applications glued on. And this is a cuff that came from, I believe these cuffs came from Curtis Burns down in Florida. But it's a baby cuff that you can glue on and trim it to fit. At this point, there were baby cuffs on both sides, but the one popped loose and came off.
Okay.
And
now, when you say these are baby cups, explain what they are, because they look like just...
See those fingers that stick on the outside of the foot?
Yeah, they got like little ribs on them.
You stick the foot in there, you put some glue in there, and you glue it to the foot with the urethane.
And what is the actual job of that thing? What is its purpose?
To support the baby's leg. And, you know, on that, if you look at them, we trimmed off some of the outside of it and then trimmed the toe. And then the medial side, you can see those ribs stick out further. So we've got a medial side support to try to get the foot to the leg to rotate in a little bit. So that's kind of where we were working to start with, right?
Right.
And then we put that on to bring that leg in some.
So here's a good picture.
Okay, there's a good picture of the cuff with a foot stuck into it, and that one part of it has been trimmed because basically when you get it out of the box new, it has that width. If you see where the extension is all the way around from heel to heel, because you can use it for multiple purposes. You can trim it off on your bandsaw, and you glue it, and this. You can do a toe extension on a club-footed horse. You can fit it full on the back end on both sides. You can do a lateral extension, which that would be a lateral extension. The other one, what we had done on little baby Alice, would have been a medial extension. And, hopefully it stays on for a few weeks and it pops off. Because at that point, those bones are changing fast. The feet are changing fast. Everything's growing fast. And, this is a big extension. After you get the foot basically where you want it, you might go back to your fast set or super fast or whatever your weapon of choice is to keep things stabilized and keep it on a shorter trimming schedule until everything's stabilized. But we want to, if we need to move things big, sometimes we need to do big things.
So you're saying this boot right here is going to physically twist or bring the hoof around to a 0 degree in front, like 90 degree or 0 degree.
To the leg.
To the leg.
To the leg, in line with the knee.
Okay. That's what I meant. Bring the toe to the leg. Okay.
I've been asked to bring feet straight forward when they were looking at the body, and part of the problem with doing that is the horse's shoulder is angled out when they're young, so they don't fall over.
Right.
And I've had people want you to bring all 4 feet straight forward, and then when that baby matures, when the shoulder opens up as it grows up, then you end up with a pigeon-toed horse. So you want to go straight, go in line with your knee.
Okay.
And so that's what the goal is. That way, when the shoulder opens up, then the legs will be relatively straight. And we're boring that poor little baby. Look at that.
I know. Look at that.
Oh, geez, you guys are boring. Leave me alone. You're bothering me.
The smile on that horse is 1,000 words.
Yes.
So how's baby Alice now?
Well, last I knew about baby Alice, have not really heard anything for some time. Baby Alice is doing pretty good. And you see where baby Alice has been trying to stick legs into things or whatever babies do to themselves. Mm-hmm. But, I saw baby Alice at a point, and I think what we did at first was basically your fast set or super fast. And then when I glued those cuffs on, I went on with a urethane type material.
So baby Alice,
at that point, when those came off, it went back into the farrier's care. So far as I know, the baby Alice is doing just fine.
So you said it went back into the farrier's care.
Right. I was working with their farrier.
Okay.
On the horse.
Okay. So I guess my question is nothing against the farrier that was there. He was just not experienced with changing.
I was asked to come in to assist.
Okay.
because
By the farrier or by the family?
actually by the farrier.
Okay, so the farrier recognized, hey, look, I need to bring someone in to get a second opinion, called Mike Stein, said, hey, Mike, can you come over here? Our baby Alice needs a toe-in fix and stuff, and let's work on it together?
Yes, exactly. And that's one place where, I'm pretty involved with IPF, and there's a network of farriers all over the place. And, there are farriers within that I will call on because, I've not dealt with everything. There's a lot of stuff out there I don't deal with. It's like talking to Ian the other week about the standardbreds. I've never worked on standardbred race. If I was thrown in the middle of that, I might consult with Ian. I have consulted with Ian on crack stabilization.
Now, I just saw recently that they posted you had a new graduate that was, I forget the person's name, but you just had a brand new graduate that got its certification from...
Well, the credentialing test.
Yes, that's what I should say, yeah.
Right. And part of the deal with that is after school, after whatever, I was way into my career by the time I did their credentialing test. And then there's more you can do past that. Now, trying to work a 70-hour week, sometimes it's not. And one thing they were asking for you is for you to educate yourself throughout your career, which is always changing, so that's what we should be doing.
So as far as furthering education, the Equine Dynamics show, this one right here, actually qualifies under the IAPF getting, what do you call them?
CE points.
Or CE points.
Continuing ed points.
And you do get, this podcast is qualified to get that if you listen to the shows.
Yes, it is. And there's a number of other ones out there. There's a lot of online information. The Hoof Care Summit, a number of other clinics. I've been to a few clinics this year already. I will be going out to Doc Redden's for a week of summer. And I hope to get 100 some odd hours every year for further ed.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad for little baby Alice, and I'm glad that you were able to help baby little Alice, and someone actually called you out there to assist them as well.
Well, I'm going to say we got things worked out better for the baby. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to step in there and say I did.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't that would be a little that would be a lot arrogant, but we worked with the baby, being myself and the other farrier and their vet, and we got past the rough part and then got to the point where their farrier took it over and maintained it, continued to work with their vet. Everything I know about the baby is the baby was doing well and went on to is going on and growing up, and I'm not sure how old that baby would be at this point. I don't know that the baby's under saddle yet, but her job is to go out there and be a champ.
And she's going to star in many movies, all credited to the help of the Equine Dynamics podcast. All right, guys, stick around when we come back. A couple more things and we'll wrap up the show. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stein is a registered journeyman farrier through the APF1 accreditation. Make sure you follow Mike Stein over on Facebook. You can see all these different articles. Mike will also post a bunch of these pictures up there. If you don't catch the video, you can't get to the video. Make sure you follow him over on Facebook as well. That's Equine Dynamics Mike Stein. Posts a bunch of different articles. A lot of great furthering education information is up on Mike Stein's website as well, or on his Facebook page as well. And if you'd like to ask Mike Stein a question, you can email him at any time at equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Make sure you fill out that little form there, put a return address, and we'll send you out some free stuff here from the studio just for being part of the show and saying thank you. And if you'd like Mike Stein to perform a clinic out at your location, you can also find that over at the equinedynamics.com page as well. Under clinics, fill that out. Mike will schedule and get everything lined up for you as well. And over to my far right side is Mike Stein. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Travis?
I'm doing all right. All right, so what did we learn today? Talking terminology. We talked about the cannon bone and how horses used to have 5 toes. Now they only have 1.
Yeah, that'd make it fit in your shoes a little easier if you didn't have 1 toe now, wouldn't it? Of course, you probably fall over.
Smaller shoe sizes.
Or smaller shoe sizes, yes, for sure. But, yeah, looking at the anatomy of the leg and the purpose of the cannon bone and where it is.
Mm-hmm. And the growth plate closure time graph. Let me pull that up real quick so we can see it. so we can see it.
That's not it.
There it is. All right, so this is the
There it is.
This is the growth closure map. Let me switch screens here so you can see that as well.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, the growth plates, when we were dealing with young horses, we need to consider this. When we're starting to put weight on young horses, we need to consider this. And something that is not in here when you're talking about loading weight on young horses, think about your SI joint. And when everything starts closing there, to me, that's one of the things we really need to look at when we start putting saddles and weight and the level of work we have on young horses, because we don't ever push that too early.
And baby Alice and shifting her feet around to line up with the legs. I'm gonna go here. There we go. So here's baby Alice.
There's baby Alice. And getting in the proper time windows to work with baby Alice. There's a number of different things we can do to work with his legs. Start off with maintaining and trimming feet. When a baby is newborn, we may need to take a look at it, and we may need to come back in a couple of weeks and take a look at it and see how things are progressing, so that we can stay ahead of these problems. Because, you know, there's so many times I get a horse that is a matured horse, and they say, "Can you do something with this horse being pigeon-toed? Can you do something with it being club-footed? Can you change that foot and make them match?" No, probably not at that point. Can we find a solution to help that horse maintain? And the thing of it is, if you don't take care of it early, some of these horses pay for it for the rest of their lives.
And you're always fighting it.
And you're always fighting it, yes. So need to take care of those babies so we don't have problems later. At least check them out.
All right, guys, on that note, we're going to let you get back to enjoying your horses. Make sure you follow Mike Stein over on Facebook. That's Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein. Also, make sure you like and subscribe to us over on YouTube. A lot of visuals that we have here in the studios. Plus, you can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving me as well, and Mike in his Ghostbusters outfit over there.
Yeah. Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
That's it.
All right, guys. On that note, on behalf of Mike Stein over there,
have a good day. Enjoy your ponies.
My name is Travis saying see you next week.
Have a good one.
All of the doggies are in the corral. All of your work is done. Just close your eyes and dream, little pal. Dream of someone.
Right.